Fireworks have existed for hundreds of years. The Chinese invented fireworks sometime between 600 and 900 AD. The first fireworks were created by mixing charcoal, saltpeter, also called potassium nitrate, sulfur, and other ingredients. This mixture would then be carefully packed into bamboo sticks. Once the sticks were filled, the Chinese would throw the sticks into fires where they would explode. These were used in celebrations and also to ward off evil spirits. Over time, the Chinese began to put the mixture into paper instead of bamboo. In the 10th century, they used the powder to fight enemies by putting the mixture in the paper, which would be attached to arrows that would be shot at their enemies. This created the idea of also using the fireworks for entertainment. It gave the Chinese the ability to shoot fireworks up into the air to create beautiful displays of light and color for the audience during the nights. The recipe for the mixture began to spread to Europe, where it was used to fuel cannons. In addition, the fireworks were used to celebrate military victories. People in Europe began to call those in charge of putting on the displays fire masters. Italians in the 19th century came up with the idea of adding color to the fireworks shows. To achieve this, they mixed various chemicals into the firework powder, which created a plethora of color. Today, fireworks are used to celebrate the coming of a new year, Independence Days, and on the anniversaries of momentous achievements for countries around the world. There are various kinds of fireworks. One of the most popular fireworks used today are sparklers. These sparkling sticks have iron fillings and aluminum powder glued to a long stick or rod. They stick to the rod because a starchy solution covers the stick and acts as glue. Once lit with fire, the iron and aluminum quickly oxidize with the help of barium nitrate. This is what creates the infamous sparks on these fireworks. The reaction stops once the fire consumes the last of the iron fillings and aluminum powder. Another popular firework is the snap and pop. They are made of silver fulminate and a little bit of gravel wrapped in paper. Silver fulminate is extremely reactive as an explosive, which is why it isn't used in regular fireworks. When the paper-wrapped silver fulminate is thrown onto the cement, the friction between the gravel and silver fulminate creates an explosion, which is also what creates the popping noise that users enjoy. The artillery shell fireworks, which are what is used in fireworks shows, are a little more complex. There are 2 layers inside the shell. Both are filled with gunpowder. The first layer is attached to the fuse. When lit, the fire will travel up the fuse until it reaches the first layer. The fire will hit the gunpowder, which will cause the firework to launch into the air. The fire will reach the second layer of gunpowder, which contains small projectiles that contain the colors, which are metals that burn in certain colors. When the top layer of gunpowder explodes, the projectiles of color will be launched into the air, creating the beautiful display that audiences love. Firecrackers are tubes that have a fuse attached to them. The tubes contain a mixture that is 75% potassium nitrate, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur. When the fuse is lit, the spark will travel up the string until it reaches the tube. The charcoal is the first of the mixture to be reached by the spark. It will oxidize, followed by sulfur, and then potassium nitrate. As all of these chemicals oxidize, they also produce oxygen in the tube. As each part of the mixture burns, the gas produced will run out of space, which causes the tube to explode, creating the firework. When creating the aerial fireworks used in the fireworks shows, a lot goes into the production. The container that holds the powder and projectiles, also called stars, is made of pasted paper. When the fuse is made, the length of the string will depend on how high the manufacturer would like the firework to go into the air. The black powder mixture, which is made of potassium nitrate, sulfur, and charcoal, is also called gunpowder, and it fills the container. The projectiles are arranged around the inside of the container. To launch the firework, it is placed in a tube filled with lifting charges of gunpowder, which we use to light the fuse. Once it is launched into the air, the fuse will continue to burn until it reaches the shell or container. It will then explode, sending the projectiles into the air to produce different colors of light. The way the manufacturers arrange the projectiles in the container will change the pattern and look of the fireworks. To make the projectiles or stars, Companies take barrels of certain solid chemicals or metals and measure certain amounts of these chemicals to place into pieces of paper after first putting them through screens to get rid of any lumps. Chemicals can be combined or mixed by hand or placed into mixing machines. Manufacturers take extreme caution during this process to avoid friction that could cause the ingredients to explode. These mixtures are then mixed with some water before being packed into tubes in order to prevent friction. They are hammered down to pack in as much as possible. Once dry, the chemicals are taken out of the tube and placed onto a surface covered in black powder, which will stick to the chemicals. The chemicals will be cut into dice. These create the stars, and the black powder surrounding the dices will help them ignite. The stars will then be placed into containers that have the center blocked. Black powder will be poured in, and the middle of the container will then open up to allow the black powder to move around and cover each one of the stars. The container is then covered with a paper top called a break. The break is then spiked, which means a string is wrapped around it and cut to size. It will then be tied to secure the break. The fuse is then placed into the break and wrapped with paper. The breaks are then covered in wet, pasted paper and then will be sent to dry for 2 days. The breaks are then placed into shells. Typically, there are only 2 layers in Asian shells, but America and Europe prefer to use shells with several layers. For this reason, fireworks in Asia are typically spherical, while American and European shells are cylindrical. To create multiple layers in a shell, breaks are stacked on top of each other. Under all of the breaks is a small compartment of gunpowder, which will be ignited by the fuse and light the breaks, which will send different colors into the air as the explosion occurs. The shell is attached to a fuse. The finished project will be put into its packaging and sent to stores where consumers can purchase them for whatever occasion they are celebrating. There are hazards to these colorful displays of light. Fireworks often contain harmful chemicals which can negatively affect the health of those who create them. Many of these chemicals are used to create the colors in the fireworks. Copper causes respiratory tract irritation. Lead affects the nervous system. Cadmium can cause anemia and damage the kidney. Noise pollution also occurs with the use of fireworks, since fireworks shows typically have many big, loud fireworks going off for a long period of time. This can cause hearing damage to animals and also those in charge of setting off the fireworks. There are many hazards that have to do with fire or burns when it comes to fireworks. If the stand the fireworks are being launched from tips over as the fuse is initially burning, the firework will go in whatever direction it is pointed, which could hurt people or burn buildings. Since the fuse is placed into the fireworks by hand, there can be an issue with the fuse where the firework will stop burning suddenly. People who stand over fireworks that do this put themselves in danger because the firework could start up again, which could cause physical harm to those leaning over the firework or in close proximity to it. Waste from the fireworks fall back down to earth, and if these objects are still hot, it can burn people, buildings, or plants in the area. Crossing fireworks is very dangerous because it could cause the fireworks to run into each other, which would cause a big, uncontrolled explosion that could be low to the ground or near things that burn easily. Fireworks provide entertainment for people of all ages, but when in use, they should be treated and handled with extreme caution.